Hey everyone, welcome on to Branded, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes and beyond the brand. We are wrapping up this year with some really good reminders, such as goals are not meant to really be finished. They're meant to expand you. And that's what I want to talk about today. So many of us as business owners, we get super freaking caught up in the obsession of being done with our tasks, done with our goals. We've reached it. We achieved it. What's next? What's the next big thing can do? Why are we doing this? This constant obsession of reaching the finish line, all it does is fuel our anxiety, and it never really gives us the opportunity to fully celebrate all of the effort that went into getting to the goal in the first place, right? So crossing off a goal off your list, getting to, stamp, done. Like, yes, that feels good. I understand the endorphin rush that comes with that. But here's the thing. Your goals aren't finish lines. They're actually stepping stones towards continued success, right? There is no finish in any of it, right? It's expansion, it's growth, it's understanding, it's learning. All of these things are happening while you're on the way to achieving the goal. So why are we not tapping into all of those things along the way? Instead, we're just worried about and obsessing about getting to the finish line and just being done. I mean, what are you going to do when you're done? You're either going to say, what's next, and start working towards another goal, or you're going to just sit on your ass? No, right? That's not going to happen. So let's stop measuring our success by how finished everything is that's in front of us. Not everything has to be finished, right? It's okay to have things that are in progress, because that progress is constantly evolving, right? That's the nature of life. It's the nature of just being a human, that we're always working towards, but it's never really done. So let's switch our mindset up a little bit about how we think about goals, how we feel about ourselves when we achieve those goals, and what actually matters along the way when we're working on that goal, right? So first off, stop chasing the finish line. This is for me too. This message is for me too. Chasing the finish line is something that, if you've ever been in sports, you're used to it. You're used to having this mindset of reach that finish line, finish that goal, check that thing off the list, move on to the next thing. But you're always moving on to the next thing, right? And in business in particular, there really isn't ever this hard cutoff. Oh, I reached this goal. Boom, it's done. I'm never going to work towards, nurture, do anything with that. I'm only doing new. That's not really how business works. That's why the goals in business are never finish lines. It's journeys. It's the growth you find along the way. It's the mistakes that you stumble upon when all the efforts you're putting forth aren't really doing what they want to do. You learn from it, you shift, you pivot, right? That is the actual win when it comes to achieving something. So think about this. How many times do you find yourself setting a goal, hitting that goal, and then feeling like you should have this really magical moment of fuck yes, I made it. All this expectation that's built up inside of you that you're like, oh my God, I just finished it. How often does that feeling not feel enough? Same. That has happened to me more times than I could even count. I have this desire. I work really hard. I have really strong work ethic. So when I start working towards something, I get pretty laser focused on it. And at the end of completing that task or achieving that goal, I expect to have this feeling of ah, it's complete. I did it. I made it. Oh my gosh, I feel amazing, right? But I never feel as amazing as I think I'll feel, right? Like it's what plays out in your head is always a little bit grander than how it actually is. And that's because it's not meant to be a finish line. It's not meant to be oh my God, I made it, throw my hands up, and I never have to do that again. Whew. No, that's not what it is. And that's why it doesn't feel that way. It actually feels a little bit like, okay, well, I guess I'm not as excited to be done with that goal because now I just feel like I need to achieve another one. It's this obsessive mind we have of being done with things. So this episode is really to just help you see it a little bit differently, because for me, I needed to see this information differently, because I was sort of getting into this cycle of like constantly looking to achieve versus just really sitting in the journey that I already was on and really allowing all the growth and the expansion and the understanding and the learning to be the reason that I was there, not the finish line, right? And I think the reason that I struggle with this the most is because of my competitive gymnastics background. You know, I have been wired to reach the finish line, essentially. I've been wired to know that all the work I'm putting in at the gym, which was like 40 hours a week, by the way. It was like I had a full-time job when I was in middle school, just because of competitive gymnastics, essentially. Like I was at the gym almost 40 hours every single week, and I never really enjoyed that time there. It's crazy to think back now, but I just didn't have the awareness, and the adults around me weren't instilling that in me. And it was really about hitting the goal, you know, getting first place on the balance beam, going to the competition and getting, you know, on the podium for all around. Like all of these things were really the reason I was in the gym for 40 hours a week. It wasn't that I was growing and expanding myself personally, that I was learning new skills, that I was getting really excited for all the new stuff that I was, you know, learning along the way. I was doing 2 or 3 a days during the summertime, and I wasn't enjoying them the way that I probably could have. But I'm not going to look back at that and regret it. I'm going to use that as a lesson for the life that I'm living right now. I'm going to enjoy the process of reaching my goals, because the finish line of that goal is not the reason I'm doing it anymore. And that's what this episode is. So, you know, there really is no wonder that we are conditioned to like treat our goals as these like, you know, these little check boxes. You're just going to check them off the list because the society that we live in, I mean, they love a rags to riches story, or, you know, I was making $0 and now I'm making 6 figures every single month. Like people love these kinds of stories, especially on social media. I was one of them too. Now I'm a little more desensitized to it because I sort of see behind the filter a little bit and I see how much work it takes. It's not about the finish line. And so these rags to riches, 0 to 6 figures, like that shit did not happen overnight. And if it did for some people, it was probably during COVID. Because there was so much that happened during that year where commerce just shifted right into the online space. And so there was a lot of people that kind of overnight, seemingly, they're seeing this success, but I guarantee they had years of them working towards that goal. And it just simply happened that they were like in the right place at the right time. You know, timing is really so much of what happens in our life. We place ourselves in this position where it's like, all right, I'm going to work towards this thing. And sometimes it takes longer than we expect. And that's because there are other variables at play. It's not just us and our own efforts, right? It's our spouses. It's if you have kids, it's the freaking weather, right? If it was pouring down rain, thunder and lightning, the internet was out. I could not be here doing this with you right now. Right? So there are other variables that are in place that either help us or hinder us to reaching that goal. So instead of focusing just on the finish line, focus on right now, the present, the expansion and growth and learning that's happening right now. The problem with why we don't see it this way so frequently is, our mindset. It's shifted and pointed to a destination versus a journey. And this was something that I would say probably, I got to think back to when was the year? 2007, maybe 2008, probably, is when I started to really have this awareness of valuing the journey of life. So I was born in 1987. This was in 2007 that I had this realization. So it's never too late and it's never too early to come to this awareness and have this realization for yourself, right? Start the business on Friday, start doing something at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, start on a Sunday. It doesn't have to be a Monday at 8 a.m. for you to start doing the thing that you promised yourself you were going to do, or to start having the awareness around something, right? But it was around 2007. And it was when Adam and I were talking about living out of the country. And this was incredibly scary for me. I've traveled a lot in my life with competitive gymnastics, but for the most part, it's been within the United States. And I've been to Europe and things like that, but I've never stayed there for a long time. Well, so Adam and I were talking about living in South America for 3 months. And I was terrified. I was excited, but I was terrified because, for one, this was before social media really kicked off. I wasn't going to have a phone. I wasn't going to have social media. I barely even had an email account. So communicating with my parents or any of those things, it sounded really scary. But then we started having conversations about how we could be enjoying the journey of those 3 months, right? It's not let's just go and live somewhere for 3 months and then we just come back. What are we going to do during those 3 months? What's our purpose for being there? What's the growth and expansion that's going to happen while we're there? And there were some reasons that we wanted to get out of the States and really remove ourselves from our lives. And there was a lot of heavy stuff happening in both of our families and things like that. So it was a great time for us to hit the reset button and to really start internally looking at ourselves and how we appreciate this journey of life. And that's when I decided to get a tattoo, which reflected a drawing that Adam actually had of a kaleidoscope from, I think it was middle school or high school. He drew it. And I came across it and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. I'd love to have a tattoo of this. And I ended up getting the inscription, value the journey, not the destination, with the kaleidoscope tattoo. And it's here on my side. And that was the moment for me that I think my life really shifted into understanding that the journey is so much more valuable than the places we end up, because it's the people you meet, it's the experiences you have, it's all of this expansion that occurs that wouldn't be there if you weren't willing to kind of stay in that uncomfortable, fearful place of new, of what goals really do for us, right? They're like a mirror of scary, fearful shit that we're like, I don't know, I want it so badly, I can see it, but do I really want to lean in and do it? Yeah, that's what the fear is telling you. The fear is come on, I know it's scary, but I got you. The universe has you. So no more chasing the finish line. It's all about the journey of growth and expansion that's happening. It is not about what happens when you're done. So I'm done with the obsession of being done. Let's talk a little bit about the mindset behind this. So in order to really appreciate, I think, where I'm coming from and to really have it integrate into your life in a way that makes sense for your life, there's a growth mindset shift that kind of has to happen, right? So here's the thing. Goals they're not the finish line, right? We've established that. They're meant to stretch you, to challenge you, and honestly, to show you this like expansion of what's possible. If you listened to last week's episode, we were talking about some things that I'm doing to wrap up this year and really set myself up for success for the next year. And inside the episode, I remember referencing how, the human experience, right? Us as humans, we create from two places, really: experience or imagination. So when it comes to your goals, don't set a goal because you know you can get it because you've done it before, right? I mean, there's some goals that are like that when it comes to like sustainable weight loss or something. If something worked for you before, it wasn't super rigid, it fit really well into your lifestyle, you gained a little bit of the weight back. Okay, yeah, that's a good goal to revisit. But when it comes to your business, evolving and leaning in to the growth and the potential that's ahead, because more times than not, it's going to be something you don't recognize, which makes it a little fearful and makes it a lot uncomfortable. But it's meant to challenge you. It's meant to stretch you. It's meant to show you what's possible. Because every time you achieve a goal, you're not actually done with anything, right? All you've done is unlocked a new level, essentially. I was at a business conference a couple years ago and I heard someone say, basically, I made the glass ceiling the floor. Like that. All it was a little shift in perspective. I made this glass ceiling, this limit that I thought I had, that people probably have told me is there, right? And I've believed them, but I made this glass ceiling the floor. That's it. I shifted my mindset to understand that there actually is no limit to the potential and the growth that I have. I am the only one that can set that limit. Nobody else, nothing else in society is going to set that limit for me. It's going to be what my own spirit and like courage and willingness and effort, all of these parts of me, like that is the actual compass of what I'm unlocking, all these things, right? So you're never actually done. You're really just kind of unlocking a new level of awareness and experience for yourself. And I mean, I'm not a video gamer, but you can think of it that way, right? If you clear level 1, now you have the tools to tackle the next level. Like, done. 2 is harder than 1, 3 is harder than 2, and so on and so forth. So every time you take that stepping stone to getting closer to the end result of your goal, you're gaining knowledge and you're gaining experience and you're getting tools that'll help you with the next level. So if you're afraid of how scary and big your goals feel when you're looking at the end result of the goal, peel back the layers to step 1, 2, and 3. How scary are those? Start there, right? That's where you're starting. Start there, because step 1 will give you the tools for step 2. Step 2 will give you the tools for step 3. It's inevitable. This is how we learn. This is how we expand. And this is how innovation and evolution happens. Lean into it. So let's say you have I'm going to give you a little bit of an example, I guess, but let's say you have a goal that is to launch a product and make $10,000 in sales. You hit that goal. It was a phenomenal product. The launch went great. You hit it. But what's actually more important with this? Is it the 10 grand that you made, or is it what you learned along the way into creating the success of a 10 grand product launch? Because now you have the knowledge of what creating a 10 grand product launch looks like. So odds are you can do it again. So the success isn't actually the 10 grand that you made with that product launch. It's what you learned on the way to creating a 10 grand product launch. It's a simple shift. It's a simple shift in your growth mindset. And essentially, all of the things that you want to achieve, like the lessons, those are the real win. You know, the lessons of everything, they're not going to disappear once the goal is quote unquote done. Those lessons stick around. They're part of you now, and they help you create and move towards the next big move that you're going to make, right? So that growth mindset, that shift in perspective of what am I actually looking to do? So like if you've got a goal to make 10 grand a month, right? 10 grand a month is not actually the goal. It's what am I learning and evolving into while I'm creating the potential of a 10 grand month, right? It's all about having the awareness of these micro moments that actually create these large scale successes. I want to also talk about expansion over like the competition or the comparison or anything like that. So really reframing how we look at our goals of, you know, did I finish this task? Instead of feeling really competitive with yourself or with others of like, oh, I didn't finish it fast enough. Oh, I haven't finished it yet. All of these things. Instead, ask different questions. What did I learn? How expanded did I feel during this process? What were some of the roadblocks that came up along the way? Why did I feel that way when XYZ happened? Like, ask inquisitive questions because they're going to give you way more answers than judgmental questions. Did this goal help me grow as a leader? If you are a leader in your industry, right? Did it push you to think a little bit more creatively, right? Did it create new opportunities, relationships, collaborations along the way? Like maybe you didn't hit the 10 grand month, but maybe you got 3 new clients that are now going to be with you for the next 6 months. Maybe you created a new collaboration and you've got loads of interviews lined up. That 10 grand month is on its way to you, but it's all the lessons along the way that are actually giving you and infusing into you all of this good stuff, all of this growth and expansion and learning. It's all happening while you're on the way to achieving that goal. That's what really, really matters. So here's a quick analogy, and I know you've heard this one before, but think of a garden, right? Every goal that you're achieving is like planting a little seed, right? You don't just like plant it and you're like, awesome, my work's done. This is great. I got the goal, planted the seed. It's going to happen. No, that's not how a garden works, right? You water it, you nurture it, you prune it, you watch it grow, you become part of this growth process of this thing that you just planted, right? It's the symbiotic relationship between you and this idea of something else. The seed grows bigger, it expands, you start understanding, okay, it's got even more seeds, something spawned off into something else, and now I've got a plant over here that's growing into something else. And this is how the idea of expansion and growth works, right? You nurture it, you water it, you keep imagining, you keep loving, you keep plugging in and putting forth the effort to nurture. And before you know it, that one goal could easily turn into 3 or 4 other really fantastic things. Expansion is like the way I sort of have been feeling expansion lately is it's almost like this snowball effect that's happening where you do one thing that feels really aligned to your business. And the next thing you know, there's another thing. And then there's another thing. And then there's another thing. And so for me, being in the flow and having that feeling of expansion are one and the same. Like there's this giant sort of space inside of me that I can feel is just like ready. It's opening up and it's ready to just have all of this momentum and all of this nurturing and this watering and this imagination and this creativity that I've been infusing into myself. All of it is sort of spilling out and becoming all of these other things. And so my goals have really shifted. I'm not worried about a 10 grand month. I'm not worried about how many clients I have every month. My focus is different. It's who can I connect with? What kind of impactful change can I help them make in their business that's going to help expand my business as well? Like it becomes this collaborative effort that what I'm doing to enrich my life is inevitably enriching my clients' lives. And vice versa. Like the people I'm working with have very similar desires and ideologies when it comes to how they work with people. And that's why I love working with them. So I'm going to wrap this up with some like a practical takeaway. 3 things that you can do today to shift your mindset. Like let's get on the track of shifting into a growth mindset because we know our goals are not finish lines anymore, right? So what are some things that we can do right now today? First, reflect on your goals. We talked about this in the last podcast episode. I'm saying it again because it's important. Reflect on your past goals. Think about the goals that you've recently hit. Write down just like what you've achieved, but also write down how you grew. Personally, professionally, both, right? Your family, whatever. Like whatever happened when you hit that goal, think about all the things that happened along the way. So something that I've discovered, let's say if I'm writing down the goal of, starting my own business, that goal, if I look back now, what actually happened, yes, I started a business, but there are so many positive things that happen along the way. One of them being that Adam and I have tapped into a side of our relationship that we didn't previously have a need to tap into. Now we like consult each other. We have these intellectual conversations about business, about marketing, about human psychology. Like we were having conversations like this before, but it wasn't about running a business. And so that's something really positive. That's a form of growth and expansion that hasn't just happened for me. It's happened for him too, all because I had the goal of starting a business. And because we're doing this together and he's supportive, which I'm so grateful of, we're actually expanding and growing our 18-year-long relationship and diving into a dimension of it that we haven't previously had the opportunity to. That's a huge win. So think about your goals in that way. What's a goal that you have set and reached? Awesome, you reached it. But what actually happened along the way? What growth and expansion was occurring while you were on your way to achieving that goal? Think about those things because those are the like really, really powerful touch points that are going to help keep you aligned with the choices that you're making for your business because you'll understand why you're doing them. Another thing you can do to help like shift your mindset right now, set goals with expansion in mind. So next time you set a goal, don't just ask like, well, what do I want to achieve? Instead, ask, who do I want to become while achieving this? That shift is huge. Who do I want to become while creating a business? Who do I want to become while getting to a $10,000 a month? Who do I want to become while insert anything, right? When you shift your goal setting to one of expansion and growth versus restriction, it's huge. It really, really shifts your entire perspective and how you approach it. And that's going to change everything. I mean, it's a domino effect, right? If you approach a goal from a place of expansion, you will find that you receive expansion all along the way. It's because your perspective, you've tuned into that side of the actual, goal happening. It's not about the finish line. It's about everything that's happening when you get there, getting to it. And then, of course, lastly, celebrate your growth, not just the outcome. Like when you hit a milestone, take a moment to really celebrate what you've learned along the way, how it has stretched you, the things that maybe you thought were going to break you, but then, hey, guess what? They didn't. Celebrate that shit. It's really important that your psyche understands that all the effort you're putting forth is not for nothing, even if it doesn't give you the result that you desire on your first try. So celebrate your growth, not the outcomes. And remember, like your goals, they're not about being done. They're about discovering what's next, leveling up, right? The glass ceiling is not a ceiling. It's just a floor. So go up there and just stand on it. See it differently. Take a moment to rethink how you approach your goals. Aim for growth. Don't aim to finish, because you're just going to be asking yourself, well, what's next? So aim for the growth. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And as we wrap up this year, I am going to not have an episode running on Christmas Day. So that way everyone, I don't need to be giving you anything, but that's what I'm giving a week of no podcast, because I need to recharge and relax, because I don't want to be burnt out in my business. So I'm going to take the week of the holiday week, when everybody's a little bit quieter anyways and spending time with their families. I'm going to take that week to rest and recharge myself. So next week we'll be skipping an episode, but I'll be back the week after. And, I can't wait to continue the conversation. I am so excited to dive into another year of exploring what it is like to be the business owner of Social Jane Media. This has been one of the most exciting years, and honestly, you just keep learning more and more. So see your goals differently. They are not a finish line. They are something to help you expand, stretch, grow, be challenged, and learn so much along the way. So dive into the new year with a whole new mindset, and I can't wait to celebrate with you. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Branded, the podcast. Please rate and review. And for more information, visit socialjanemedia.com. I'll see you soon.